Hi everyone, my name is Akshay Patnaik. I played Nasser.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Villani and I played Shamira.
And I'm Nimet Kanji, and you know who I played.
I'm Dhirendra, and I try to honor the role of Yusuf.
How was it for you to be non-Ismaili? Did you like learn about the religion or the community and stuff?
I was born in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam. I grew up in a community that was Gujaratis, different Luanane, Mochine, Bhatiane, Maniane, all that stuff. Goans, who were Catholics, Ismailis, who lived, so I lived in a building, there were 3 stories, we were on the top floor. The bottom floor was Roshan Auntie, Gulshan Auntie, Hussein uncle. And they were Ismailis, they had a bakery. I would wake up at 5 in the morning to the sound of the Ismaili ladies going to Khane with their Nandi, with their high heels. Up on the 3rd floor, we could hear it, right? We were so integrated as a community. I had Gujarati friends, Ismaili friends, Ishnashri friends, Wora friends, Goan friends, Chinese friends, African friends. This is our immersive life that we have led. We didn't know we were Hindu ke, Musalman ke. We didn't know that. We were just, except when India played Pakistan in cricket. Then we knew who we were. Right? But for the rest of the time, we didn't know who we were. We were just people. We were binadamu. Right? And that's my ticket to play Yusuf. I have lived through this experience, not directly gone through the crisis like you folks have, but we had similar situations in Tanzania where everything was nationalized, right? And you were forced out, but we were systemically driven out, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the reason why. And I know people like Yusuf and Shamira and Pareen and Akshay. Akshay was me in many ways when I had to leave England with £2 in my pocket to seek my fortune. My father has a lot of similarities with Yusuf. And as I was saying to our lovely friend here, Shem, nobody writes about us. They only write about us if we kill our daughters, or if we beat up our wives, or we have committed financial crimes. They don't write about us otherwise, As far as people are concerned, we don't exist. The media, museums, archives, we don't exist. There's no library that has anything about the contribution that my grandfather made to opening up the interior of East Africa, or your grandfather. My mother's side, my mother was born in Congo. So, I have that other aspect of my life as well. She's Hindu, Gujarati, but from Congo. So I grew up speaking French as well as Swahili and Gujarati and Kutchi and English and Hindi and all those things, right? So I'm more an African than I am an Indian.
Well, I think you chose the right word. Binadamu says it all.
What does it mean?
Human being.
One
blood, yeah.
So who here is from Uganda?
Nobody,
Besides myself.
except Salim, the writer, who is not here today.
Writer. Okay, so is this his story or is it somebody he knows or?
He is Zul.
Okay.
He is Zul, and this is his family story, based on events from his family story.
Yeah. So as I was explaining to him that I've lived this. I was about 10, 11.
So you remember quite a lot.
I remember a lot. But then when I was in Kampala, I didn't go. I was so young that the only place I know is from my house to Jamatkana, my house to Aga Khan School, my house to Kampala Road. But I wouldn't know all these other suburbs. Like, I didn't know that Kampala is 7 hills or something. No, because I never looked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really something. And I was back in Kampala in 2017.
And how
And
was
I
that?
just loved it. I didn't want to come back. Not as in come back forever. I just wanted to stay longer.
Yeah.
So I rented an apartment in Kampala for 2 months, and I just stayed there and just hung out, went to Kane. I met so many people from Edmonton and here in Jamatkana that have moved there.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to know anyone in Jamatkana. I was expecting just like, okay, whatever. And it's like, I thought they were on holidays, and they said, "Oh, we live here now." They own hotels and businesses and stuff. So, the Kampala is very nice.
So for me, it was an immersive process in a very different way, right? You know, I always I'll use the analogy that, like, for me, this is a painting, not a photograph, right? I'm never going to be able to sort of, like, I don't want to attempt to try and become an Ismaili from the inside, right? Because that would, for me, in my head, that would be almost disrespectful or caricaturizing the experience. But for me, in terms of creating the character or characterization, I think it came from, there are certain fundamental aspects of the lifestyle that just make sense to me from a human experience and also from a brown South Asian experience, right? The idea of eating rotis, for example, right? It's these little things, or like in my actual life, I refer to my father as Papa. It's a weird coincidence, and and it was odd for me to see that in a script as well. And my father's from Orissa, right? And so, what at one point felt so distant in terms of, because our South Asian identity is so nuanced and is so not a monolith, right? I realized that it gave me a sort of, a profound respect towards the community and towards what I'm tapping into. But I always had to continuously remind myself to start from the foundational springboard of what are the aspects of it that I do connect to? What are the aspects of it that actually make sense to me? And then from then on in, use my imagination, right? That's cultivated and developed and shared by Dhirendra, Nimet, and Sabrina and Parm, because I'm constantly stealing from them. Right?
Chor che, motto number one chor che.
Yeah. So.
So sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had gone back. Like if we had come to Canada and wherever else we ended up, and 3 months later or 6 months later, they would see their economy go down. And I think what would it have been? We would have got on flights and we would have gone back. And I feel that a lot of times in the Western world, the kind of life people are seeking, we already had, right? It wasn't a stressful life.
It was better than.
Yeah, and families were together. Like now in the West, we've realized that individualistic behavior is not serving us, because when people get older, they do need each other. And so so there's a turnaround, because in the organization that I work, we have a lot of development courses, and they're actually talking about now turning things around and connecting. Especially like during COVID, they talked about connect with people, connect with communities. And I thought, oh my God, we were already there, right? People went to neighbors just for a cup of sugar or a cup of this. And it wasn't the sugar, it created relationships. Like our neighbors had a TV, and our back door connected to their backyard. So we would go, because this curfew was going on outside, and so we would go through that back door into their home, and all of us would sit around, and they were a Hindu family, and we would watch their TV together. And honestly, this whole move did not feel like, when people talk about refugees and stuff, we were like, because we are the ones in the city where how you guys had these people come from out of town that are going to fly from Entebbe. We had that happen. And what would happen? My aunt was a great cook. Biryanis, kulfis, because everybody's going to be leaving. So there was festivities every day. It didn't feel to me like we were leaving somewhere. And when we arrived in England, we were in Donnyford in Somerset. We had like chefs cooking for us. Breakfast, lunch, dinner was provided. It did not feel like refugees. A coach would come pick me up to take me to school. It was very windy in Somerset, England. It's southern England, because surrounded by water. It was extremely windy. And it was not a bad experience at all. And then my parents decided to take the first job that they were going to get. And I look back and I think, oh my God, they didn't even think that there's no Ismailis in the town that we're going in. Is a few Pakistani people, and then us, and the Caucasian people there had not seen, like I got called Paki quite a few times at the age of 11, 12, and I was like, I had to figure out what is Paki. And I was like, oh, Pakistan, really, Uganda, Pakistan, okay. So all of that, and then we moved to Edmonton because my mom's sister was there and they sponsored us, so we ended up moving. But I don't know if the Ugandan refugees really experience what other refugees do at the, we didn't have to walk on feet for across another country or get on boats and just dingy boats and just go. It was different. Big time. Yeah. I even think the treatment in England was the fact that they knew that these are followers of the Aga Khan, and Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah and Hazri Imam getting his title of His Highness from the Queen. I think we were looked after really well. Yeah. Like as you guys are leaving, I'm in my house, and I know when we were leaving, we stayed a night at the Apollo Hotel so that we could take the plane the next day. I don't know if it was because there was fear that if somebody finds out we're going to go, so let's get out of here and get to that hotel, or if there was money left over and let's spend it there. And I remember saying bye to our servants, it was really like just very weird feeling. And also we didn't know that we're actually going forever. We didn't know. We thought probably going to come back, right? Who leaves their country forever, right? So yeah, as everything was happening, the sounds from outside, the military walking. Yeah, we had a military guy come into our house, and my mom was on her sewing machine, and he was right behind her. But it wasn't like, it didn't turn out to be a fearful thing. And how finding a connection that can help you get out of jail, like people who know people who know people, bribing, right? You have to bribe, even if you know people, you have to pay something. So all of that is very, very authentic.
But I mean, I'm always amazed that they didn't know where they were going to be until they were on the plane, and then his family, when he's one of 11, is in, I'm one of 6, and we all hang together, are together, be together, grew up together. So that concept to me is so foreign and heartbreaking, and I just can't even imagine being separated from my sisters. I've got 4 sisters and 1 brother, right? It's not even something I can compute, right? And so that really stuck with me, So
I'll
yeah.
share a couple of things. When we went to England, I was really puzzled that it was 3 p.m. It's dark outside. Why are women there with strollers and their kids in it? And it was really confusing that it was wintertime. So 3 p.m. and it's dark. I was so confused because how can it be dark at 3 p.m.? And there were these 2 guys in Uganda who were put in jail. One of them actually comes to Darkana and one's in Toronto. They were put in jail, and they had another brother of theirs. They're all from Jinja. So Zahir was the brother, and he went to the jail to try to release his brothers and whatnot. And he got them released. But for some reason, they ended up taking him, and he was shot. Yeah, and this is like he's related to us. And then so that's on my dad's side. On my mom's side, another gentleman in Kasese was also, I don't know how he was caught by the army, but they tried to make it look like it was suicide, but they killed him. Yeah, so those were the 2 deaths that I kind of know within the extended family that happened.
I was 7 when I went to Uganda. It's funny, my Masi was leaving Kenya to go to UK, but they decided to do like a road trip through Kenya and Uganda. At the time our plane arrived, because there was no internet, there were no telephones, our plane arrived in Nairobi, it was delayed, they left without us. So then we got on a bus and we got to Iganga and we connected them at 3 in the morning in Iganga. There was a guy outside, it was all misty because, Tanzania we're on the equator, like 7 degrees, Dar es Salaam is on the coast, there's no fog, nothing, there was mist and fog everywhere. There was an African man with a long beard and a gunny sack, just wearing a gunny sack as to keep himself warm, with a big machete, walking the streets, and woo, he was howling. What the hell? My sister was 5, 4, I was 7, my mom. And he said, where do you want to go? So we said where to go, and he took us to the house. We connected with my Masi, and then we traveled through all of Uganda. Eldoret, Jinja,
Did you go Murchison Falls?
We went to Murchison Falls, we went to Lake Victoria. It's just gorgeous. So, Jinja, it was a Sunday, I remember to this day. We went into the temple. The gardens were better than Kew Gardens and better than, back then, even like what we have here, Van Dusen and all that.
Yeah.
Just the opulence of those tropical flowers. And then I saw this statue of a man, big, tall, Indian man. I'd never seen a statue of an Indian man in my life.
Yeah.
Madhwani.
Oh, were you Madhwani's
No,
father?
his father, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
he looks like me, right? So Uganda I was from a poor socialist country. Uganda was like what we held
Abundance, yeah.
as like yeah, exactly.
So in 2017, when I was there, the Africans said that Idi Amin was great and it needs to happen again.
Well, a friend of mine just went there. A friend of mine just went there a month ago after 50 years, and he made an observation. He was very well received. Everyone loved him, but there's a lot of resentment and anger brewing up amongst indigenous Africans against Asians and Chinese.
Because see, now the Indian people have come there
Yes.
and established themselves.
But
so
also-
the economy is being run again by them.
Yeah, but also the ones, our guys from here and UK that went
yes,
back,
Of course.
some of them did not learn the lesson, and they're
Yeah.
still treating Africans like they're slaves.
Hey, they're treating us in the Jamaat. There's a thing about the rich and the poor. So at the Darkhana in Kampala, they resent the Kalolo Jamaat because Kalolo Jamaat is rich and they don't associate with these people. So it's within the community also. It's there.
Same with in Dar es Salaam now. A Mochi can't go to a Bhatia Dandiya Ras, and Bhatia can't go to a Luana Dandiya Ras, and Luana can't go to Patel
So
Ground, and
sad.
it's pathetic.
Because
Started
they
in the
went from
70s,
Canada, should
80s.
have taught them, because Canada's not like that.
Yeah.
They should have been.
Yeah.
Instead, they became that.
But the mentality, we're still colonial.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for coming and staying.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.